Hello and welcome to the France 24 interview. Our guest today is Luis Moreno Ocampo, who was the first chief prosecutor of the International Criminal Court. He is now the special envoy of the Organization of American States for Crimes Against Humanity. He's been focusing on the very volatile situation in Venezuela. Those deeply charged words, crimes against humanity, were uttered this week by the United Nations human rights chief to describe the situation in Venezuela. He said Venezuelan security forces may have committed crimes against humanity against protesters, and he's calling for an international investigation. You are going to organize public audiences about the situation in Venezuela. Do you agree with what the UN human rights chief said?
My contribution will be to be impartial. So I was, as you say, the chief prosecutor, but I found there's a huge gap between diplomatic organization, international organization, and the court itself. So I'm trying to fill the gap. I will facilitate the process within the OAS at Washington, with people coming and discussing, explaining what happened to them, including why could be considered a massive or widespread or systematic attack, one condition. Will be generals discussing if there are plans, orders, chain of command. Will be justice and judges and prosecutors discussing justice efforts in Venezuela. I don't know the outcome. The outcome could be, no, it's not technically, legally a crime against humanity, or yes, should be investigated by the ICC. And so in 2 months, we have an answer from the expert. And then in 2 months is the crucial moment. Countries can decide to expedite the investigation and not just let the prosecutor to decide to open or not. The countries can decide and refer the Venezuela situation to the ICC. And that will make a difference.
Yeah, so basically right now, so for our viewers to understand, you're going to have those hearings, you're gathering evidence, and at the end of October, you will decide whether the Venezuela situation should be referred to the International Criminal Court, right?
Not me. No, I will make, as a former prosecutor, I don't like to make any intervention interfering with the mandate of the current prosecutor. There will be 3 independent experts, one former judge from the Inter-American Human Rights Court, and one former Minister of Justice from Canada, a former Inter-American Commission executive secretary. So there will be 3 different prominent experts. They will make the opinion. And then they could say yes or no. The issue is they say no, probably nothing will change. If they say yes, states, including France, can decide, okay, we together request the court to investigate the case. That would be new, never happened. And that's a challenge. Can international organizations help people, protect people? That happened in Europe when Yugoslavia broke down. So in the 90s, Yugoslavia was in a civil war, and for Europe was very difficult to control. Now, similar in African Union with Burundi, for instance, or imagine the Arab League in the Arab world. So all the Americans in the Americas, Venezuela is the most critical moment, the most critical crisis of the day, and maybe this provides a new tool to discuss political solutions, or if not, do justice in Venezuela. That will be, we'll see.
Right. You spoke of France. The French president received a delegation of the Venezuelan opposition. He also described Venezuela as a quote-unquote dictatorship. Do you think that France could play a role in pushing for the opening of a formal investigation by the International Criminal Court?
Oh, absolutely. France is a state party. In fact, France led the referral on the Darfur situation. So France now, in a different context, not in the UN, France and European countries can lead, working with the American countries, promote the idea to investigate what happened without saying who is guilty. But France could help to open an investigation from the International Criminal Court into Venezuela. Absolutely.
So in the end, is there a possibility that the Venezuelan president, Nicolas Maduro, might be sent to the International Criminal Court, or is this science fiction?
No, I cannot make any prediction, but it's a possible outcome, yes. Now we have 2 months legal discussion. I think it's important to include the legal limit to explain no any crime is a crime against humanity. But then, if the experts say, okay, these are crimes against humanity, then will be a political moment. In November, President of France or President of Brazil or President of Mexico or different presidents from all over the world could decide, okay, we'll do together a referral to see if there are crimes against humanity here, but investigated by the International Criminal Court. So we can open the International Criminal Court for Venezuela.
Right. But clearly the threshold is very high. A crime against humanity is really the mother of all crimes, if I may use that expression. I mean, from what you've seen, I know you don't want to take sides, but yes, we've seen violent repression, but a crime against humanity is something else, it would seem.
On Thursday, we'll discuss if the alleged crimes committed in Venezuela are widespread or systematic. So these are executions organized, arrests organized, or they are just random activities. Then on Friday, something we never discussed is, okay, if these crimes are widespread or systematic, who organized it? Because the law requires that should be crimes committed by an organization and according with plans. So we'll discuss that. I have some generals coming to explain what plans they saw, what plan they implemented. And then in October, the next element is the ICC should not intervene if Venezuela is doing justice itself. So we'll discuss that. On October, we'll discuss are genuine national investigations in Venezuela. And will be judges and prosecutors from Venezuela discussing the point. And then the last meeting will be the 3 experts explaining to the diplomats what they see. And interesting, I had a meeting last week with the diplomats here. There are 35 ambassadors from different American countries, but there are 69 observers ambassadors, including the French and the Dutch and the Spanish, Italian. So it's a mix. And it's not just the American state who can refer the situation, any of them. And that could be a change because in the past, OAS could not obtain 18 votes to decide some issues. With the ICC, they don't need 18 votes, they need 1. One state referring the situation is enough. And that could be France. So it's will be a new game. In October, will be a new game.
I want to go back to the International Criminal Court. You were its chief prosecutor. It's been widely criticized in Africa because of the focus on Africa. Some heads of state have even said the court was racist. Some states have withdrawn. Do you think that the ICC can survive this major crisis?
No, ICC not just survive. It's the only 911 in the world. And the fact that it's in Africa is because most of the crimes are committed in Africa or in the Arab world. Arab world is just Jordan and Tunisia members, the rest not. So ICC is in Africa because ICC should be in Africa. What is colonialist today is ignore African crimes. That is colonialist. So ICC is doing its job. And probably should do more. Even Burundi should be a new situation because Burundi is withdrawing because Burundi is allegedly committing a genocide. And African Union cannot stop it. UN Security Council could not stop it. So the only tool, and that's why it's attacked, because it's efficient, is the International Criminal Court.
But it's attacked by the African Union. The African Union took an official stand saying states should withdraw.
Yeah, but you saw what? No one withdrew, just Burundi. South Africa withdrew the withdrawal. Gambia, who was saying we'll withdraw, did not because the new president said, no, we like to be there. And Gabon sent a new referral. Central African Republic sent a new referral. Africa needs ICC. The problem is, in the Americas, there is just one situation complicated, Venezuela. In Africa, there are 10. So imagine the African Union meetings are a mess. If in the OAS they cannot get a majority of 18 votes, because one situation is complicated and then there are political alliances, imagine in Africa the mess. That's why people misunderstand. ICC is controversial because ICC is doing its job.
Just the last...
Yeah.
Just the last question. One case that you've thoroughly investigated, and we've discussed it before, is the former Ivorian President Laurent Gbagbo. Some have called for his early release. Do you think that he should indeed be released, or that he should remain in jail during his trial?
Oh, but that's the judge's decision. That's a good thing. We have institutions which are working. So Mr. Gbagbo is being from the judges. He has rights, but he's in jail. Judges will decide. And that, I hope, will happen the same in the different states around the world. That suddenly, instead to bomb people, we just prosecute them, and they have rights also, and judges will decide. And that would be much better than bombing.
Just the last question. Are you confident that in the end, the evidence you have gathered will be enough for Mr. Gbagbo to be condemned?
I left before the trial started, so I believe the prosecutor team is very competent. But it's a trial, so when the judge decides acquittal, it's also legal. It's also legal. So we have to understand that. But I believe the prosecutor office is doing a great job. So I suppose they can get the conviction. But if not, it's also part of the process. Acquittals are part of the process. And that, for me, is the new thing. Remember when you have the attacks in Paris. So France, what they did, went to Syria and Iraq and bombing. It's not solving the problem. Bombing will not solve the problem. I remember General McChrystal said, American general saying, in this country, when you kill, there are 10 terrorists. You kill 2, how many remain? 20. 20, because you kill 2 and the family and the friends became terrorists. And that we should understand. It's not about bombing terrorists, it's about investigating crimes, stopping crimes, and doing justice. That's the way to make peace in the world. That's why Ivory Coast is a great example.
Luis Moreno Ocampo, thank you very much for being with us from Washington, and thank you for watching this interview here on France 24.